looking for a church, that is one of the hardest things you can do these days in terms of, finding a great church or stroke fellowship to be part of. What are signs I can encourage people or even myself in how to find a good church or fellowship?
I think this is a really important question, because the tendency today is we're such an individualistic society that people kind of think, well, I've got my relationship with God. Why do I need the church? And the thing is, we need other people. We were built to be in community with other human beings. In fact, that's the only way that we can really reflect God's full character. So we can only love when there's someone else to love. We can only be selfless when there's someone else to serve. We can only be sacrificial when we can give something up for someone else. And so those are the things that reflect God's character. And so we need the church, and we need the church in order to be built up and to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves. So first of all, that's really important. Now, how do you find a good church? Because as we know, there's just a multiplicity of all sorts of different kinds of churches, different emphases, different practices, different styles of music. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in the superficial things, such as styles of music, or is my particular culture the emphasis here? What I find comfortable. And I'm not saying those things aren't important, but I think the bedrock of what you need in a good church comes down to probably three things. You need good orthodoxy, orthopraxis, and orthopathos. Okay. Now, what I mean by those are big words. What I mean by those is good good doctrine. In other words, the gospel gets preached. That's orthodoxy. Good teaching. All right. Cool. But you also need good practice, orthopraxis. You need right actions. So emotions. Right thinking, right feeling. Right thinking, right doing, and right feeling. So I'd be looking in a church for a place where there is community, a place where there is love, because Jesus said they'll know you not by your right teaching or your right living, but he said they will know my disciples by their love for one another. And so there's so many people that are very clear about, the gospel's not being preached, and that is so important. I have to agree with that. And yet, even if you got all your doctrine right, and you follow the letter of the law, but there's no love in the church, there's no sense of community or warmth or welcome, then that's a sign of that's an unhealthy sign, in other words. And so the gospel being preached, because that is absolutely important. You look at Galatians, and Paul says, if you're preaching another gospel, not that there is another gospel, it's no gospel at all. And so you have to make sure this is a church where they take the Bible seriously, where the gospel, that, in other words, Jesus is the Son of God, he's fully human, he came to save humanity, and now he's redeeming everything to himself. That's getting preached, and the Bible's getting taught. But also balanced with people are applying that to their lives, and they're actively building community together. Now, that sounds perfect and ideal, and it's never perfect or ideal. And I think what I would encourage people to do is remember that the church is more like a hospital than a club for the righteous people. The clubs were, the hospitals where you go when you're sick. And so we can't expect perfection in the church, but we should expect that those three things are being actively pursued.
Brilliant. I like that. Wait, he's not told me this before.